after the class. So hi everyone, today I'm going to show you how to make the Ladybird character, which is this one here. Okay, so we'll make a start with the leaf part. So you're going to need your green that you've made. I have actually not put any of my CMC into the paste at the moment because it really depends on what the weather's doing and the colour that you're putting into the paste. So
I'm just sorry, Hannah. Oh, women shouldn't have spoken then.
So we've got I've got double the quantity because I'm teaching the class again tonight, so that's why I've just halved that. But you've got your blob of green paste. Now, just to explain, most of you will know this, but if you don't, the amount of CMC you put in really is dictated by the softness of your paste. So a small quantity like this green that we've got wouldn't need too much in there anyway, but also you've got the moisture, the colour is drying, green colour is drying. And also if it's not raining outside, you won't need as much as if it is raining because you've got the moisture in the air. So really we only need a small amount. Now you could, in the green, you could actually get away, this is a tiny palette knife, so this is probably just the tip of a teaspoon equivalent. You could get away with not putting any CMC in your green because it's not holding any weight, it's going to be flat on the surface. So I'm just going to give that a good old warm up, twist it through. That's the quickest way to get colour through, and it's also the quickest way to get the CMC to start working. And if you want to, you can stretch. The one thing you don't want to do is flatten and fold. So it just gives you an idea of how it works. So the warmth of your hand is melting the fat in the paste, and that's what's making it nice and smooth and crack free. So we're going to fashion a leaf that is just by hand. I'm not going to use a cutter because it's just something for the ladybird to sit on. So I'm just rolling really tightly between my hands, having warmed that up. I end up with a spinning top, and then I'm going to just round that off into a nice smooth ball. If you end up with cracks, then you can use your finger to just rub the crack out and then go back to the rolling as a ball. Okay, and then I'm going to use the heel of one of my hands, keeping this flat. Now I'm left-handed, so if you're right-handed, you probably want to have the right hand, have the right hand be the one that's rolling, okay, and the non-dominant hand holding the paste. So I'm just going to hold it at an angle like so and press down to form a fat cone shape. Okay, and then once you've created that, a little bit of corn flour either on the palm of your hand or on the surface, depending on how you want to work. And then we're going to flatten this out. So we're creating a leaf shape. And it can be as big as you like. I don't like to make this too thin because it doesn't really fit with the chunky characters that we're modeling, but you can decide. So I've got something that's a little bit thick still, so I can just enlarge that slightly as a bed for the ladybird to sit on. And then using the cutting wheel and probably either the kebab stick, cocktail stick, or your spaghetti, I'm just going to push in a little kind of indentation here. I'll probably, if you're using spaghetti, be careful not to press too hard on there. Just rock in a central vein. Okay, so this is the tip of the leaf here. And then either with your cutting wheel or cocktail stick, we can then use just a sideways press. So we're not trying to dig the point in, just to create some texture on the leaf. So it's very dumpy, cartoony style. We have another one here if we want to. And then if you want serrated edges to the leaf just to give it more interest, and you can go back to your spaghetti stick or your kebab or cocktail stick and just push in some indentations around the side, and that will give you a little leaf shape, and that can be rested directly on your board. It's quite nice if you have it so that the ladybird maybe perches on the fatter part of this, so you do see some of it. I'll leave it up to you to decide how big your leaf becomes. Okay, so just warming this up. It's feeling soft. It's starting to rain here as well now, so that will give me a bit of an indication that I need a bit more of the CMC in there. I've just got a tiny knife, but use a teaspoon if you like, and this is probably the heaped tip of a teaspoon in there. It's not a whole teaspoon, it's just a good pinch. And you can, it's better if you're not sure to start off with a little bit, and then once you've felt the paste after about 7 or 8 minutes, because it does take a while to react, then you can decide if you need some more. And the reason we have this is so that your figure holds up in its shape, and also it just makes it easier for you to work with the paste, because sometimes it can be really soft, sticky, depending on what the weather and the colour is doing to your paste. So, but don't be surprised if you don't feel the difference for at least 10 minutes. And CMC Tylose powder is also known as gum tragacanth, and that is actually a man-made version of gum tragacanth. This here is a man-made version of gum tragacanth, which is taken from the sap of a tree, and they dry it. It becomes a powder, which is added to food to help as a setting agent. And we use it to hold the shape of our paste. Sugar paste, which is what you're using, what you're modeling with, will not set fully ever. Okay, so it was just kind of give, I should explain, one of the ladies here has not done anything before, any modeling before, so I just wanted to help explain. Okay, so we've got to make sure now that we've got enough for the body and all the other features. So I would break off roughly in half, having one slightly larger half. Okay, the slightly larger half can be the body, but the rest is going to have to be for the arms, the wings, and the shoes. Okay, so it's quite important that we don't overuse. We need to make sure we've got enough. Might just balance it out a bit. We'll have, if you just go 50-50, you'll be fine. So take one of those balls of paste, pop it back in your bag, and then work the other one. Twist, squeeze. Roll really tightly between your palms. And then as it starts to look nice and clean and shiny, you can release the pressure between your palms just to form the ball. And this is going to go into a cone shape as well. So we're going to hold the ball in the palm of your non-dominant hand. Use this part here to hold at an angle. And then you're going to roll, pressing down a little bit more on that one side to form a fat cone. Okay, a lot of my characters start off with a fat cone. And this we're going to pop quite upright, so not too leaning back, because you've got wings that will stabilize it, but we don't want it to fall backwards. Okay, and just when you're positioning this, just make sure you've got enough room in the front for the legs and enough room at the back for the two wings. So I'll just get you to do that, and then we'll move on to the other features. Okay, so let me show you where I want some indentations made, just down the bottom here. So this is actually the front. If I want, I can actually put a little belly button. It's going to be covered by the black, but it just gives you an indicator on where the front is, so you don't put your legs in the wrong place. And I'm just going to use my two little fingers and come either side of that belly button. You can use just here and here. And I'm going to just press in a little bit right down the bottom. I don't want to mark my leaf, but I want to make 2 little sockets ready for the thigh. And to help me, because it's always better to glue before you make whatever it is you're making, I'm just going to put a little bit of glue in those sockets. So it looks like nostrils. And then a little bit just up here and here, ready for the sleeves. And a bit down the front, but just a small, not a fat outline. It's more teardrop shape, and that is for the patch that goes onto the front of his tummy. I'll just share the picture with you again. So we're gluing in this area here and here, a small amount of glue within the area that the black patch is going to go, and then a little bit either side here and here for the arms. And still staying with the red, we can now take some of our spare, and we're going to make 2 little, well, he's got like mini shorts on, skimpy shorts. So I'm going to start off with 2 balls. I'll just give you a measurement on this as well. I'm going to work with a ruler just so that you've got a bit more of a clear idea of the size of all these things. So I'm going to work with 1.5 centimeters, no bigger than that, because we need to make sure we've got enough paste. So 2 balls, 1.5 centimeters in diameter. Then just match them, make sure they're the 2 same size. Get those nice and warmed up and crack free. Okay, and then we're going to pop them on as balls, and then we're going to indent. Okay, so I'm just going to put one on this side here and one on this side here. Just make sure they're crack free. And now we need to make an indentation. My apologies, on the list there should have been a bone modeling tool. And we want to create, we need to support the back here and create a little socket ready for the leg. So we're giving him little shorts. So it doesn't have to be really deep, but we need some kind of socket so that the thigh can fit in. I'm probably going to make those a bit larger. Just use the big end of the bone modeling tool. And then we're going to take the same amount of paste again, 2 balls, 1.5 centimeters, to make the sleeves. So once you've measured 1 ball, you can just use your eye to measure the second and take a little bit off if one looks a bit bigger than the other. So you've got a good chunk of your red left. So I'm going to warm one of those up. Okay, and this is going to go into a cone shape. So I'm just going to use either my heel of my hand again, or because it's a smaller amount, you might just decide that it's easier to support or hold the fat end and just start to thin one end into a cone shape. Do the same with the other one, but do make sure that your paste is warmed up. Otherwise, it's a bit prone to cracking. And once you've made those, they end up being about 2 centimeters length. And with the pointy end uppermost, they're going to sit either side. And again, with the bone modeling tool, the large end, but this time facing upwards. And we're just going to support and push up in. It's just a little, I find it a little bit easier to do this once it's attached to the model. So I've gone in just under 2 centimeters for the legs and put some glue into the 2 little pieces that we've made his shorts out of. And just match those ball sizes before you start. So forming the leg, it's actually just going to be a stumpy thigh, and then you've got the longer part where the shin is, the calf. So rolling is going to be an elongated cone, but it's not going to be very pointed. So I'm just going to tilt my hand slightly as I'm rolling. So I'm pressing just a little bit more on one side, but essentially rolling a sausage along this part of my hand, which is quite flat. So we'll just keep going. You can always trim the ankle, because this at the moment looks quite big, but I just don't know until I've got it on there. We've also got a shoe to go on as well. So that's coming in at about 5 centimeters. And if you haven't already, it's a good idea to give your hands a bit of a clean before you start with the skin tone. And then probably about here, which is maybe if you section this into thirds, this is the fat end, which will be the thigh. The knee will come in about third of the way down, and then this will be the ankle into the shoe. I'm just going to rest that and bend it over my thumb, and between my fingers just pinch in either side, which starts to create a bit of a ridge up here, and then using the same fingers push the other way, so you end up with a bit of a point. I'll show you this again. I'm also rolling it to create the back of the knee. And now I can see there's a real possibility this might need trimming, but I can do that with a pair of scissors in a little while. Okay, so that's your thigh. This is your ankle. I'll show you that again. And make sure you warm the paste up nicely so you haven't got any cracks. Roll really tightly between your palms. Gradually release the pressure to get a ball, and then pressing down slightly more on one side. Create the leg. So just kind of try and match the same thickness as the other one. The fat end is the thigh end. About a third of the way down, I'm going to bend. Finger and thumb actually pinch a ridge, and then your 2 pointing fingers push. That creates the kneecap, and then between your fingers, I'm just rolling actually against my thumb, which gives me the crease in the back of his knee. If I need to snip this, I'll do it later. I quite like the idea of having a skinnier ankle, so I can just support the paste and then just roll to thin that outer fraction. And if your paste is feeling super thin, just check soft, just check that you have in fact got CMC in there. So I'm just extending and thinning to make it look more leg-like. And it could be that I need to cut a bit off here because that one looks a little bit longer. I'll just show you how they stick in, and then how they attach. And then so we're just going to put the fat end in, knee up. We definitely need to trim. You can see that because it's sitting quite tightly on the surface, and we've got a shoe to go on there as well. Fat end in. Or we could just have him with socks on. That'd be quite cute. So if you've got your cutting wheel or a palette knife or a pair of scissors, we can just maybe sever the ankle a little bit and just touch it around the outside edge just to neaten it off. And now, once I've got a shoe on, that's probably about the right length. Do the same on the other side. So your cutting wheel you can use for this as well. Looks like he's wading in water. Keep these pieces because we can use them. Talk you through the arms next, and we're going to use about 1.5 centimetre diameter. Okay, and this is quite straightforward, but I think recently we did another character, or yes, it was the bumblebee. If you did that, this will give you another practice on the hands if you want to go a bit more exact on the hands. So I'm going to show you what I've made for the model, but then I can show you a little bit closer, a little bit more detail, putting fingers and thumbs in. So if you want, you can have a go. So a ball, again, into an elongated sausage, slightly tapered at one end. So we're going to end up with, sorry, it's because I'm quite close, the camera doesn't know, and I'm moving around, so it's thinking, what do you want me to do? Focus. 5 centimeters again is the length. So to make the arm, if you want to, you can just leave it like this. You could fold in an elbow, so it's the same as the knee. This time though, we're going about halfway. Pinch with your thumb and your finger to create a ridge at the top. Push with your pointing fingers to make a little kind of pimple or peak. Rock. So use your pointing finger to rock the paste against your thumb, just to press a little bit, so that then creates the fold in your arm. And here the fat end, so the thin end is actually going to be going in as the top of the arm. It's the fat end that we're going to form into a wrist. So I'm going to bring my fingers to about 1 centimetre from the end, and they're turning slightly, and I'm going to roll in a little wrist. Here's looking a bit blobby, so between my fingers, come back up here. So you don't have to do all this work. You can just roll an elongated cone. But if you want to do some more work on and practice on your hands, then you can. So now I've got my elbow on this side, the wrist in, and I want to press and just stroke to create the palm. And if you need to, you can go back and narrow this a little bit more. Certainly useful to practice this, because if you're trying to do figurines, they will need a little bit more detail. Okay, so that could be your hand, and that's how I've done it on the model. If you want to, you can take this one step further and either use a pair of scissors, your cutting wheel, or a knife, and you can cut in a thumb. So this is extra detail if you want it. So here, I'm just going to come to the top, got the elbow here, so the thumb's on the opposite side. Cut in a little snip. This is looking sharp, so what we want to do is use our finger just to touch and press the main part of the hand a little bit more, just so it rounds off. And then this piece that you've cut, just give it a little gentle tap, maybe a wrap, a kind of little roll, just to neaten the thumb up. So you could leave it like that if you want to. This can be thinned a bit more if you feel like it's too chunky. And if you want to take it one step further, then you would, this whole palm here gets divided in half, just reset. So we take the knife, scissors, cutting wheel, whatever you prefer to use, to cut cleanly through the middle. So that's divided that piece in half. And we would come and cut through the center of this side for the pointing middle finger. And then through this side for the little and the ring finger. And because the little finger is smaller, you can take just a little bit off the top, off the tip of the finger, so that you've got a smaller little finger. So now we can part those and just use your finger, or you can use a cocktail stick just to neaten those off. And I think I remember saying when we did the bee, I've done hundreds of hands and still sometimes they don't come out how I want them to. Other times they come out perfectly. And it really is lots of practice, but it is fun to do. So when you're next playing with the Play-Doh with the kids, you can practice your arms and legs. Okay, so that gives you a hand. Now this is far too delicate for our little ladybird, so I will go back in a moment and show you how. But here, if you wanted to, you can easily use the flat end of a spaghetti stick or kebab stick and mark in fingernails, which you can barely see. And you can also shape the fingers so that they're in a position, I don't know, holding a cup of tea or dancing. Just remember that fingers are not splayed out like this. They are quite, we carry around closed, and this thumb is often down. Okay, so that's how you would have a go if you fancy it. But I'll just go back to what we need for the model. Into a ball, into an elongated cone. It's going to come out at about 5 centimeters in length. Halfway, pinch with your thumb and your finger, push with your 4 fingers, roll, that gives you your elbow. Then come to the fat end, because the thin end is the top of the arm. Press between your finger. It's not that heavy a press, it's more of a roll and a little bit of pressure to form the wrist. You don't have to go super thin, because once you press on this end bit here, it kind of all makes sense. And if you want to, you can roll that a little bit more, depending on how you think it looks. Okay, I'll do that another time for the other arm. And just remember, if you've got a left and a right, then you need an elbow that goes the other way, or simply turn it over. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you forget that. It will matter if you're cutting thumbs in and fingers. Just make sure that's roughly 5 centimeters, how you had it before. Over the middle, so right in the middle the bend is for the elbow. It's like people that do all the very intricate faces, which are amazing. They're super difficult to do. And you just see them fiddling with spare bits of paste to practice, practice, practice. Because that's the only way So these, because they're going into the arm sockets and we've already got sleeves, we are not going to need a lot of this length. If I try and put this in here, it just looks very lanky. So I would say, again, you can use your cutting wheel, pair of scissors, and really only want a short amount above the elbow, about 1 centimetre. And working out, obviously, yeah, I've cut a little bit of an angle. And if it's still not short enough, we can always trim that, but you have to do it before you actually, you can't trim from the palm end. And the other thing we haven't done already, which I should have shown you, would be to get that area where you've hollowed out glued up. So just, again, not too much, doesn't want to be too wet. And maybe pop your glue in now while you're still making your arms, just so it can start to soak into the paste and get a bit tacky rather than really slippery. So this hand can go on already, the one that's going to sit on his lap. So we're just going to slot that into the socket that we've made. Just be careful because, of course, bones are straight. So when you're attaching this, you don't want it to start to bend in a way that it wouldn't bend. I know this is strange because it's a ladybird, but it's kind of a human ladybird. So we can sit that on. This is causing me a little bit of resistance up here. So I'm feeling like I need to cut maybe so it comes to a point, because it's not slotting in. Watch out though, because I've picked up a little bit of red. So I've just made that come to a bit more of a point so it sits in and shortens it a fraction. So that's going in better now. And where the hand is touching the knee, I can just put a little wisp of glue under there just to help it hold. Now bear in mind as well that we are going to be lifting the leg up at some, probably next. So that could knock this out of position, but we'll be able to put it back in. This one here, I'm going to do the same thing. I've got this angle going on, and I think that I need to create a bit more of a point, and that will sit into the other side. But if you want it to rest across his tummy, like in the model, then you need to just hang fire until we've put the black bib on. Okay, so that hand you can just carefully put to one side, but remember you won't be able to move that piece around. It can stick on, but you won't be able to move its wrist. It might break and then you'll need to remake it. Okay, so just keep that to one side for a moment. With the black, it's always a good idea to use that last, so you haven't got to worry about on your hands. So I'm going to move on to the shoes next. Now you can give this as much detail as you like. It's quite nice. Do you know, I feel like I want to put white socks on him, so I might get you to put white socks on him. We'll see. I'll show you and you can decide. So we've got a 1.5 centimetre ball of paste. I want to make that into our cone shape. Give it one little tap to flatten it slightly, and then we're going to cut in a sole. So you can use a stitching wheel for this as well, but not everyone's got one of those, so it's entirely up to you. So just cut in a sole, and we come across at about a third, which would be the heel. So this is actually the back. Now on this model, you don't see any of that other than the side profile. So it's quite nice if you want to put in maybe 2 lines coming across the front of the foot to give it a bit more detail. Entirely up to you. Then I'm going to take my bone modeling tool, bit of corn flour. This is the big end. And push that in to the narrow part, which is going to be essentially where we put the stump of his foot. Okay, so I'll show you that again. Warming up. Nice and tightly rolled. Form your cone shape. So this can be done just rolling using the heel of your hand or pinching out. Give it a little tap to flatten. And then we're on to using the stitching wheel for the sole. Not stitching wheel, cutting wheel for the stole. Okay, so that's the sole of the foot. And now the top of the foot. And you could use a knife if you want to instead. A little bit of corn flour onto the fat end of your bone modeling tool. Push that down to create a well ready for his foot. So there you have 2 shoes. Now, if you want to, so if you are going to put socks on, it's got to be white socks. You're going to need to clean your hands off a little bit. Take some of the small quantity of white that you've got. You don't need a huge amount. And this may also, if you put socks on, you may decide that you need to trim just a little bit more of his ankle off. So I'm going to take probably about a centimetre ball, not too big. Match the ball sizes. So just over a centimetre on there. Now, if you take the shoe and put the ball onto the shoe, you won't need glue. Take your bone modeling tool and press, just wiggle it rather than force press it. Gives you a little sock. Probably now look a little bit like Santa's shoes. Or slippers, they look like slippers. So you can put a bit of glue in there, but it's not necessary because it's going to be wedged in. So pressing, hollow out, so you've got enough room to insert the foot. Decide which one is left and which one is right. And then we take a little bit of glue into the indent that you have made. And we're ready to gently lift and insert the feet. I quite like the fact he's got shorts and slippers with socks. And you can, I mean, this character, I know it's a ladybird, but it could be a little boy or a little girl. If you put, you know, it could be a boy fishing or it could be a gnome. It's got lots of different possibilities. So for the bib, just over a maybe a 1 3/4 centimetre ball of black, warmed up and then rolled into an elongated cone, pressing down, a bit like you did with the leaf, but we're going to be a bit thinner. I like to do everything with the palms of my hands rather than roll because it becomes too precise otherwise, too thin. So this one's probably about 2 mil thick overall. And then we've already put the glue onto the front of his body. So it's nice and tacky. This black's not going to bleed. And we just needed that. You can see the shine on there where the glue is. We just need enough glue on there to hold the piece in place. So start by lining it up at the top so you know you've got it in the right position. And then just press on the sides. Bear in mind you've got black on your fingers, so you just need to be a little bit careful so you don't transfer that onto the red. So now he's got his tunic. And if you really liked the belly button, then you can reinstate the belly button. Just use the flat end of your spaghetti stick or just, you don't want anything too pointy, that's all. And at this point as well, I'm going to give my hands a bit of a clean up, but I can also put the arm on. But I do need to be careful where I put the glue to hold it onto the tummy, because we don't want the black to bleed. So I'd start off by inserting the arm. We've already got glue on there. Let it rest. Try not to bend it because it could crack. And I'm just going to put the lightest swish, and that's now hiding his belly button. Looks like he's got a tummy ache now, doesn't he? You might not want it on there. You could put it on the other. You could go on the knee if you wanted it to. Or higher up, which would be quite cute because it makes him look like he's holding his fat tummy. That doesn't help if you've already put glue on there. You can add a push if you have a bit of a disaster with bleeding paste. You can clean it up. It's not 100% effective because it does sometimes leave a bit of a watermark. But if you were to take say I've got a bleed on here and I can't, I obviously don't want a mark, is it an unwanted mark? You can use alcohol, just something like gin, vodka, something clear. Take a very clean brush and just wipe gently, only lightly dampened brush with the alcohol, and then just wipe. And you can blot with the tissue and then go again with a re-cleaned brush, and you can gradually kind of itch it off. I think he's holding his tummy as if he's got like a baby in there. I don't know why I'm referring to it as a he, it could be a she. And then give your hands a bit of a clean up because we're going to go back onto the skin tone colour and form his head with the features. Just pop your paste in a bag while while you're not using it. Okay, so for the head, 3 centimetre ball, nicely warmed up. And then I'm just going to roll it a couple of times just to make it oval. And the shape itself is the widest part will become the side of the head. Okay, so it's not like this, it's like this. And when you're rolling that, it comes in just about 3.5 centimetres. It's not very oval. Okay, now to support the model, we need to have either a spaghetti stick or kebab stick, something that's going to go all the way through the model, hit the surface, but be nice and upright. So for me, today I'm going to use a kebab stick, but you could use a spaghetti stick. A cocktail stick will be a little bit short. Now, as you push this through, because that body's had a chance to kind of set, you don't want to just plunge it through. You need to drill it through. Make sure that that is upright. So if it's at an angle, you need to pull it back out, reposition it, and then push back in so it's going into fresh paste rather than just kind of pulling it. You've got quite a lot of features going on, so it needs something strong to hold. And if you've got a spaghetti stick, then all you need to do is hold down here about 1 centimetre and then snap it off. But if we're using a kebab stick or cocktail stick, then that will require a pair of pliers. Just hold on to the piece that you're breaking off. So about 1 centimetre, max 1.5 centimetres will be enough for this figure. And the kebab stick is food safe. Spaghetti sticks are breakable, so potentially more of a choking hazard. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue around the top here. Again, not too much because I don't want to end up with a bleed. If you're worried that you've picked up some of the colour, you can always clean that off the brush before it goes back into your glue. And then pop the head on. Again, maybe drill that down as well. Okay. So find the center of the face and then just rotate the cocktail stick so that it can open up a little hole, a bit bigger than just a poke. And that will help hold the nose on. So the nose I've made for this one is quite chunky, but you can choose how big yours is. And then knowing that that's where the nose is going to go, I can paint my glue inside. It also tells me then that the cheeks can go either side of the nose, so we can straight away start to paint on and work in the glue. So we don't want anything that's going to really drip, but we do need a decent amount on there, and it's a good idea to definitely get that on before we go ahead and make the cheeks. The good thing about this is that the cheeks are the same color, so we haven't got to worry as much about color bleeding and so on. And then you can take some of your skin tone, and you should have plenty left. You can decide how big you want the cheeks because you've probably got quite a bit left. Just bear in mind though, if they're really huge, they do have a tendency to drop. So you just need to keep an eye on it if it starts to move. I think it's got to be bigger than 1 centimetre, so just over. About 1.25 centimetres would probably be enough. No more than 1.5. So match your ball sizes to start. You can always hold it up against your head and see whether it works for you. probably about right. So just make those into balls. That's all we need. Make sure that you warm the paste up. So something this small, it's better to actually just kind of try and pinch it. I'm not trying to fold it, but I probably am folding it. But it's kind of anything you can to manipulate it without drying it out. And flattening and folding can actually dry out. And I'm just using 2 fingers to roll. And now they're crack free because we're going to press those down. If they have got cracks in them, the cracks will open up. So we're just going to pop the cheek on, hold it in place. Glue's had a chance to start to soak in. You could leave it for longer if you wanted to. And then once I've touched the surface with the cheek as a ball, I'm now working my thumb around the outside edge. So I'm not trying to flatten it. I want it to be quite bulbous, but at the same time, I need it to be attached more than just in the middle. So I'm supporting the head while I'm doing this. So we can just give it a little press on and then support the back of the head while you press around. I just find my thumbs more paddy and easier to use, but you can choose. Just think, you don't want chocolate buttons. You need something a bit more minstrel-like, nice and rounded. I'll give you a side profile, you can see. Okay, he's going to look really weird now until he's finished. Tell you what as well, you could actually make gnomes like this. Christmas elves, Santas. Choir boys. Just looking at that thinking choir boys. I don't know. Lots of choice. Okay, so once you've got your cheeks on, the next step is to create a mouth. So I'm just going to take a small ball of the skin tone. It's about 1/2 centimetre. Don't really want it any bigger than that because we're going to roll it into a sausage shape. And that's actually going to be secured kind of as his chin, if you like, if I show you on the picture here. So the way we make that is a 1/2 centimetre ball of paste. Just drop that into my palm. So I'm left-handed. Use just your finger to roll a sausage or a tic-tac shape. We want it long enough so it becomes a smile. So when I'm measuring that, it's about 1.5 centimetres. And to attach that, I'm going to just bend it into a little bit of a curve. Looks like a maggot. It's very fiddly, this bit. Try and balance it as a smile shape in your hands. Close it up just slightly more. Little bit of glue just under your nose hole. And this is going to sit in. It's literally holding onto the underside of the cheeks. Looks weird, I know. But once the nose is in, it'll make sense. When we make Santa, this is like his bottom lip. You can, if you want to, I'll do this and you can decide whether you like the look, but you can actually open up a bit of a hole here. So it looks like his bottom lip, and then his nose will go in the other one. But for Santa, we put his beard on, but he's made in the same way. I know he looks strange. I'm going to go back to his using the red now. Now, there's a real temptation at the moment to put his nose in because this looks wrong, but I can't because we need to put his eyes in first. And we also, before we put the eyes in, we need to do the patch on the top. So I'm going to do a bit of gluing. Firstly, above the cheeks where I know the eyes are going to go, one here, because we've got, with the eye whites, we've got white and black, plus we've got eyebrows going in as well. And then across the top of his head, I'm going to put some glue. Let me show you the picture so you can see a bit more clearly. So we put glue where the eyes are going to go. You can see we put the mouth in. The nose kind of covers that mouth area up a bit more. This part here will extend at the back. It comes down like the back of a short haircut. Okay. But this bit, we need a little bit of glue in the center, a little bit over the top here, and then at the back, but not so much that your black, your red color will bleed through. So if I just turn this around, you'll probably see it better. So I'll start here, which is where the tip of the toupee is going to go, and then kind of brush the glue outwards towards the bottom of the back of his head. Try not to overdo this because it will bleed out. So eyes and that part where the toupee is going to go. Now, we do need to be a bit careful because this needs to do our wings as well. So and once we flatten this as well, it should come out quite a big piece, and that leaves me with a decent chunk for the wings. So I'm just going to warm this up and roughly form the shape, and then I'll show you how. So I've just got just a teardrop shape, and then we flatten out. So if you did the bee, it's a similar technique. And then if I hold that over the head, I'm going to think, yeah, that's probably okay. It needs to be a bit thinner, but it's okay. So the quantity of paste might just take a little bit more. That you need is about 1.5 centimeters. And that should leave you, so you've got the eyebrows and the antenna, but most importantly, the wings. It should leave you with a chunk of about 3 centimeters if you're worried. So I'm going to warm this one up. So this is for his head. It's about 1.5 centimeters. Start off by forming a cone shape. It's not warmed up enough, so I'll redo that. But everything about modeling, when you're warming up, I always form it into a ball first before I make a shape. So all these shapes are formed out of a ball shape. It's just so much easier. So pinching out a point at one end. And then start to flatten. If you feel like it's going to stick, just put a bit of corn flour on your hand. So we want to tease out a nice rounded part here. going to be quite thin, about millimetre and a half. So it's thinner than anything else that we've made. So just take from the center, I'm holding it at the back, and just tease that gently. If it's starting to tear, you'll need to get it back into a warmed up ball and remake it. Okay, so it's not super thin. 2 mil probably, similar to the bib. And then if I bring the figure back, you start by positioning the pointed end on his forehead and then drop that over the back, start to press in. And it's quite nice on its own, doesn't it? Just without even attaching it to the back of his head. I'm feeling like I might leave that because it definitely put black dots on there. If you prefer, you can actually stick that fully onto his head. He has got wings going on as well, which we're going to make next. We need to keep out of this 3 centimetre ball that we've got left, keep a centimetre back. That will be for his antenna and his eyelashes. Oh, actually, no, let's do more because we want his nose. He looks good with a decent sized nose. So if you take 1.5 centimetres off, that will be enough for all the remaining features. And this piece here, I want to divide into 2 equal sized balls for the wings. So get it into a rough ball, divide it, and just match the ball sizes. So if one's slightly out, just take a bit off and add it to the other. Get those really nicely warmed up, because what we're going to do is form a teardrop that's going to curve and sit as if his wings are about to open. Ladybirds fascinate me as well because, you know, often if something's brightly coloured, it's like a warning, danger, I'm really super poisonous, but they're not, are they? So it's just amazing how they're that boldly coloured. So when I've got 2.5 centimetre balls here, that's what I've got. But if you've got 2 centimetre, then that's fine as well. So make sure they're nicely warmed up. And then, like we've created the bib, we're going to make an elongated cone. And then start to press. And you're going to get this down to about 1.5 millimetres thickness. It doesn't want to be too thin. If it is, then it won't hold its shape. So we've made a lot of teardrop shapes today. And I would say that's going to come out at the widest or the longest point. It's nearly 7 centimetres. It's probably 6.5 if it helps, you can press down on your surface. Just don't make it too thin. Just polish it off around the edges as well, so it's more rounded. Okay, and that's going to curve in a moment. We'll do the other one. So do make sure you've got CMC in this, because this bit needs to hold up. And I haven't put the glue on the back yet because I don't quite know where it's going to go, but we'll do that in a moment. For extra stability, the wings could actually be made before you put the head on, but it doesn't matter really. So elongated cone, you're trying to match the teardrop shapes if you can. If they're slightly different, it doesn't matter. 2 millimeter, 1.5 mil thickness when you're done. So it's about 7 centimeters in length overall. This lesson runs till 12:30, by the way. We're doing really well, actually. But just want some time to sort out the features for his eyes and his nose. So we're about right with our times. So we'll, you can decide how big these spots are, but just bear in mind that when you make them, they do come out quite large, but I think we need them to be cartoony. So I'm rolling balls of black paste, which are about 0.5 centimeter. Often I would say with this that the spots are normally the same size. But if you want to change the proportions, you can. It's not a problem if there's one slightly bigger than the other. And I would match all the ball sizes, maybe make 6, so 3 for each wing. And just adjust them, make sure they're roughly the same size. The other thing to bear in mind is when you pick each ball up, you're going to need to re-roll it because it will dry in between the rolls. So don't go back to number 1 and just press it on, because it might not be warmed up enough. The problem you have then is it will end up cracking on the edges. So once you've got 6 0.5 centimeter balls similar size, you can go ahead and press them. Don't press them too far in because we don't want to thin or dent the wing. You can decide where yours are going. I always think less is more, things like this. And it's quite good to try and mirror the design. I haven't used any glue. It doesn't need it. And if you want to, you could have maybe 2 random spots similar size to go on the back of his head as well. But just take care when you press those on. So if I wanted random spots on here, I just don't want to press too hard. Otherwise, I could make his head sink. And if you have to put glue on, just the tiniest dot in the center, enough to hold it so it comes off your finger. That's all you're after, really, because these pieces, they shouldn't flake off. And of course, we've been handling the black. So before you pick those wings up to position, you must wipe off your hands. Get that black off. And these now, very carefully, peel them off. And they're going to sit at an angle like this on the back. So I need to put a little bit of glue just at the nape of his neck and the edge of his bottom, just onto the leaf. I'm going to hold that gently at the top here. Now, kitchen roll just helps stabilize. You just take one strip and fold it into a tight sausage, and then just take a pair of scissors to snip off. So you get these little supports. You've got to be careful not to push them near the glue, but if you just drop one under there, it will help stop it from sliding just while it's setting. Okay, just find a way of wedging that underneath there. That's it. So I turn that sideways, you can see what it's doing. And it's possible I'll need to shift it so that I can fit the other one in. So pointy end uppermost. Slotted in just at the base of the neck. Held in place. Looks a bit like a cape. It's going to take a few moments for that to go off and hold. And take the other piece of kitchen towel just to support it at the base. I've just rested them on the bottom. That's enough. The reason this is coming apart is because the glue hasn't quite taken hold. So if you do know where yours is going to go, you can always pre-glue. That's just something to know for next time. So these are 1/2 centimetre balls for the eyes. And I'm just going to press that to pick up. I'll just flatten it slightly. Let's do that on my hand. The problem you've got is if the surface you're working on is greasier than your finger, it'll stick. So just press it a little bit so it's slightly flattened. And pick up that disc and position it where you'd like the eye to be. Do the same with the other one. So just tap it a little bit to flatten. And pick that up. And because you've got the glue on your surface, that's going to go off onto the model quite happily. And then we're going to support it. I've just changed angle for you. It looks weird because there's no nose. Just press those a little bit so that the eyes, they're still going to be raised pieces, but you don't want them so raised that it looks like he's got springs for eyes. Then make a little mark where you want the eye black to go. And that's a good idea to have this kind of down towards the bottom of the eye white, the edge. Otherwise he looks very starey. If you put the black pupil right in the center, it's always a good idea to, whatever you're doing, whatever you want it, however, which way you'd like it to look, that you have it at the edge. That's going to need a little bit of glue. So I've only got, this brush is quite thick, so I've got to be really careful. Just enough to hold some eye black. So we go to the black. Work with a bigger piece. Make it come to a point. And then pull off a small piece. Now, this really doesn't want to be that big because it is surprising how large this can be if you press it. So you want to match the two ball sizes. When you're happy, just tap them lightly. I haven't flattened it because I've got grease on my finger. That will come off onto my finger. But I've got a touch of white on, a touch of glue on my white here. So it should come off because your surface is wetter than your finger. So on, press, and come away. It's looking very scary at the moment. Now, while we're here, we can do the eyelashes. I mean, these are optional. But again, we're going to just take two small balls. These are quite big. I'd probably go similar size to the balls you put, maybe just slightly bigger than the balls you put on for the eyes. And then smaller still. So we've got two the same size, slightly larger, two the same size, slightly smaller. Work out where you want the lashes. I'm just going to literally run the brush across because I know I've got lids going on as well, but putting the lashes on first. So just the top half or top third. Take one of the bigger balls to start and just with your finger, run it backwards and forwards so you create yourself a very slim cone, elongated cone. Do the same with the other big one. And then repeat for the small ones. If they flatten in your hand, remake them into a ball and go again. A bit of corn flour on your finger can sometimes help. If they're too big, remake them. This one doesn't want to play ball. You can also do it between your fingers, but it doesn't come out as well. This one's dried out because of the corn flour in my hand. So I have to make another one. Okay, so I've got skinny bits. I'm going to show you on a different angle here how to form these, because it's better if you put them together first before they go on to the character. So if we just use a cocktail stick, we've got very delicate. Bring this together. And the other one. I feel like this needs to be a bit longer, so we'll do that now. So I'm putting a longer eyelash at the top, but to be honest, it won't matter. So just bring those together so the fat ends can be squished. You can use your cutting wheel as a bit of a pick upper, or the knife, whichever you prefer. I'll just bring that a bit closer, so it's going to go onto the eye like so. And make that come so it's at the bottom of where you've glued. And then we can ease that over a little bit and flick these pieces a little bit up. I feel like I want to bring this one down and that one. Just get that to come over a little bit. Yeah, like that. So the first one is kind of following the contour and coming down. This one is actually flicking up. And then the lid, if you want eyelids, can go on top. So we'll do the same on the other one. It might be easier to handle just by picking up by hand. Super fiddly. So on it goes. They look very angry if you have them kind of sticking up. Really, eyebrows make a massive difference to the look of your figure and how stern it can be. And if you curl down, it's a much gentler look. I bring this down and then up, it looks much kinder and cuter. Still a bit starey. Now, at the moment, we've got black on our fingers and we are done with the black, so we can give our hands a bit of a wipe down. And at this point, I'm just going to take a little bit of my white. I'm going to pull off the smallest bit, roll that into a ball, just drop it down onto the surface. It is so small. That then needs to be divided in half. I know that sounds crazy, but it is the smallest amount. So I'm just using a cocktail stick to cut that in half. So you really have, it's so, so small. If you can, pick each one up very lightly and gently and roll it into a ball. These are the highlights. It's just going to take the stariness away from the figure. Don't forget as well, you've got his nose going on, which will calm the eyes down a little bit. So really, really, really small. Take a very, very light amount of glue just onto the eye black. Now the highlights, they need to go on the same side. So if you're painting glue on this side at top, it needs to be on the inside of the top of this one. If you have highlights coming in from here and here, he looks a bit boss-eyed, and often your light is coming in just from one angle. So decide what works and stick with that. Then I'm going to just take each highlight, pick that up onto my finger, and as gently as I can, drop it into place. So take the other one, come to, so this one's top left, so it will be top left on the other one as well. Gone too soon. There we go. Really, really fiddly. But if you're making cartoon little girl characters, boy characters, this is sort of detail that really makes it stand out. Now we're going onto the red. And I feel at this stage, I have to make myself feel better by putting the nose in, because you think, oh, it doesn't look right. And also that will mean we know how much we've got for the little antennas and the eyebrows. So I'm just going to take off a ball of paste for the nose. I like big noses. So for me, that's going to be about 1 centimetre into the palm of my hand, rolling on one side to create a point. And then the pointy end is going to go into the hole that you've made and glued. So pop that in. Check the mouth is where you want it to be. If you want to, you can open up the mouth a little bit more now. I'm just pulling my cheeks up a little bit just to make the eyes look a bit smaller. We can adjust this mouth a little bit as well, because that looks a bit low. And if you want to, you can actually put a highlight, a little tiny white highlight on its nose. Just remember that if, because you've been working with the red. And then the highlight for that will also be top left. So we just got tiny dot and one for his nose highlight. Looks like a spot. the eyelids. Again, we're working with red. Small ball. It's about 1/2 centimetre, but it's going to make both. And my paste is a little bit on the sticky side, so I've just got to put a bit of corn flour on my surface. So my little ball of paste, 1/2 centimetre maximum, bit of corn flour. Just flatten it into a disc. Just ease that off your finger so it doesn't misshape. And that piece then we can draw across, cutting in half to form 2 semicircles. This should, I'm hoping, soften the look of the eyes. So just a brush of glue just at the top of the eyebrows. And then take each disc, the rounded part's going to be the uppermost, the flat part is down. And we can sit those on. Pick the other one up. Just rest it, just overlapping the top eyelash. And then we need to adjust. So I feel like this needs to come in a little bit and close up a bit on this side. Ooh. This part, the top part of his head is a bit skew whiff, which means that the eyelid on that side is not centralized, but it looks okay. It softens him a little bit. So the last bit is the antenna, which is your 28 gauge wire. You just need a 1/3 length. And that I'm going to cut in half, so you can use scissors for this. So I'm just going to cut the 1/3 length wire in half. And that's what we need the rolling pin for. So we're just going to balance that over the rolling pin to form a curve. And with the red, avoid making it any bigger than 1/2 centimetre because it could pull the weight of the little cone could make everything twist down and also potentially come off. So you could make it a little bit smaller if you want. So all that is a cone shape. So ball, cone. Same with the other one. You shouldn't need any glue. Just feed the wire through the pointy end. And then just take hold without holding the wire and just pinch it a little bit and twist it. Not too much because it can open up, but the idea is just to get a little dangly bit on the end there, like a bead. Do the same with the other one. So into the pointy end. It's gone into about 2/3 of the way. Just press it a little bit, but not too much because it will open up. And then just remove some of my mess. We can focus those kind of towards, so the center of the head's here I'm coming just slightly to the left and right. And the bee was made in a very similar way to this, wasn't it? They're holding nice. Oh, this one slipped a little bit, so we're going to bring that back in play. You have the cute little ladybird. Oh. He's eaten too many aphids. I don't know. Are ladybirds vegetarian? I have no idea. So if you want to put blusher on, just take a little bit of red and work it into your brush, but make sure that it's well worked in. You want to have virtually nothing on the brush before you go ahead onto the cheeks. And if your cheeks have any residue of glue, are wet in any way you don't want to go near. And when I paint this, I normally have a bit of a kind of circular action. So I'm already moving the brush in a circular action before I'm touching the piece. And I would say, you know, if there's not enough on there, there probably is enough on there. Don't go back, because then you overdo it. And but blusher, it can really ruin the figure if you've got wet on there. So if I can get that a bit closer, you can see it's just got a little bit on there, but I haven't got any sharp smears or draws or marks. Just a little bit on there if you want to give him a bit of a cutesy look. Okay. But it's quite funny because all the way through I'm thinking, oh, it doesn't look right, I don't like it. And then of course, once it's all done, you've got everything on there that you're supposed to have. I like it. I like it now. So there's your little ladybird. So here he is, the little ladybird, all cute and finished. I hope you've enjoyed making him today. If you do actually want the kit list, I'll just share that with you now. And if you have any questions, feel free to get in touch with me by email, hannah@inspiredcreations.uk.com. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye-bye for now.